Okay, so fantastically abundant good morning and welcome to all of you. I trust you are looking forward to another great discussion this morning, and be interesting to see where the mindsets are from an abundance perspective. So Lee, over to you, and let's take it away.
Thanks, Ivan. Well, good morning to you all. I think as I was thinking about this topic, I think it's easy for us to say, yes, we must have an abundant mindset. It seems to be the right thing to do, is to say, yes, abundance is how we must think. And then I had to reflect on myself and to say, well, Lee, how abundantly do you think? And yesterday was a tough day for me. I can't say why, I felt overwhelmed. And then when I thought about that word overwhelmed, I thought, well, it's an abundance word, isn't it? Where it feels like there's too much. There's, everything is coming at you, everything, too much. And it just isn't even, it reminded me of an Irish poet by the name of David Whyte, who has written a series of poems, and the title of the book is called Everything is Waiting for You. And when he talks about it, he says, that might sound very optimistic, but just remember, everything is waiting for you. And so sometimes the abundance is both in the bad and the good. But I don't want to start on a negative note. I want to then move to say, actually, when you open your eyes, and it comes back to what Ivan was saying yesterday, is that, and Ivan, you'll have to do the quote better than I do. I'm remembering it something along the lines of, if you can't change what you are doing, change the way you see. Something along those lines.
So if you don't, if you want the things you look at to change, then you need to change the way you look at things.
You need to change the way you look at things. And I realized that is actually the clue. And so when I did the slides for yesterday, and maybe I can bring them up, but I don't know if I need to. One of the slides is of, I will bring it up just now, is of a terraced agriculture. So these very industrious, very innovative people have come into this incredibly inhospitable geography and looked at these steep mountains and said, oh, I know, let's grow rice here. And to think of the engineering and the ingenuity and the difficulties that they had to overcome, and yet the mindset to see a very difficult situation as possibilities, as potential, as opportunity. And it has created not only food and industry for that area, but it's a place of incredible beauty. And I also think what it's done is we forget that as human beings, we are as successful a species as we are because we always find a way. It doesn't matter whether we live in the deepest desert or the coldest climates, or in the worst soil, or in the forest. We find some way of surviving and thriving and growing and building and rebuilding. And this to me is the signs of abundance that is all around us, in our minds, in the world around us, that the tools, that the opportunities, that the resources, that the mindset is all there. It just needs to be accessed. And so that's, Trevor wants to say something now, but that's my introduction to abundance. I look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Go for it, Trev.
So thank you. I mean, what a lovely topic. This is the one that I really love. Just for those that don't know me, I'm an out and out abundance theorist. I'm at the far end of this abundance theory, that this is a world of abundance, and yet I see two types of people in the world. And my 65 years has put me in conflict with the vast majority of people that I've met who I evaluate as scarcity theorists. And so just to give you just what I believe abundance theory is about, and we take this COVID-19 period and the lockdown period, I have just seen a huge number of people who have turned around and pointed out what is bad about this. And for the last 60 odd days, all I've been doing is asking what's good about this. And I think the difference between an abundance theorist and a scarcity theorist is the abundance theorist asks, whatever the situation, what is good about this? And that's the first starting point. And the scarcity theorist will actually point out what's bad about it. And it's extremely difficult to take a positive point of view when you're focusing on the bad. So I think that's the difference for me between abundance theorist and scarcity theorist. And I was just thinking about two particular observations, just so that you can see how my mind works. Whenever I fly over the country, and I hear people turning around and saying, man, our people, we got no land, there's not enough around. Rubbish. There's tons of land around. You just have to fly over Joburg in a helicopter and see how much land there is around. So there are vested interests that are stopping people from actually getting involved in the abundance of land that is around. That's number one. Number two is when I was generating this Loanial initiative, and it came from my abundance thinking attitude in Lone Hill. One of the things that I actually saw here that I mooted to everyone is we take the bridle paths that we've got and the roadways. And now this was back in 2000. And all we do is plant fruit trees. Now you plant fruit trees because they are based in nature on the mustard seed analogy. You plant one fruit tree and it can give exponential crop of avocados, of peaches, of plums, of all through Lone Hill. And if you could do that through one suburb, you could do it along the highways, you could do it along the township roads, you could do it along every road instead of wasting your money on I don't know, rubbish that you put out there. People are hungry. That's what everyone says. Plant these blooming trees and let taxi loads of hungry people, if that's what you believe is the particular challenge, pull off on the side of the road and strip those trees of whatever fruit they have absolutely free. It's there available for everyone in abundance. But why don't we do this? I'll tell you why, and I don't want to go too deep because the scarcity theorists get involved and they look to protect their vested interests. And we've just got to overcome that with abundance thinking. I better shut up. I can see Mpumelelo knows.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Trevor. I think that really helps us to get going and gives us some guts to go on with. Stella, what do you think?
I'm still thinking.
Sorry, I jumped on you.
And it is 2 degrees up, Stella, so it's going to warm up. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I had my walk this morning, so
There you go.
I agree totally with you, Trevor. So I also live abundance, the mindset of abundance in terms of if I see anybody in need, I will give. I at this stage, I'm not earning any income. I've got some savings that I'm living off, but yet I am still helping other people that's in need. And I'm talking financially now, because I know that, you know, there's someone higher up that looks after me, and I just feel like you cannot hold back. If you've got something to give to someone else that's in need, you have to do it. Even if it's the last bit that you've got in your bank account. I've got a very good friend of mine. He's actually the one that taught me about abundance, and giving. Just to give unconditionally and not to ask anything back. Is the one night I spoke to him, I said, "Where are you?" He says, "No, he's quickly going back to go and buy bread." He went to buy bread, and he's not financially very strong. Went to buy bread and milk, and then on his way home, there was someone on the road that was hungry, and he gave the bread and the milk, and he's going back now to. And it's not that he's got thousands, you know, just to throw around. And to me, that giving of in whatever you have actually help yourself in having that abundance mindset of, it doesn't matter to give to other people if even if you've got little. Yeah, you got me a bit off guard, but I hope you get what I'm saying. Yeah, so I must still think about my to word it better, but I think you get my drift.
Great, thanks, Stella. Yeah, and apologies if I suddenly get loud noises in the background when I'm talking. I've got a neighbor who loves using their leaf blower, so I've got an abundance of noise in the background from time to time. So if I do suddenly disappear in a volume of background noise, you know why. But for now, it's quiet, so let's hope it stays that way. So Donovan, let's come across to you this morning.
Morning, everyone. Yeah, I just made a few notes regarding the topic of abundance.
Well, Donovan, again, for some reason your volume is very soft. I don't know if your mic settings can perhaps be turned up, your local sound settings, or just get in really close.
Let me see if I'm closer, if it will be better. Hope it's better now.
It's a little bit better, yeah.
Yeah, so for me, in terms of abundance, it's when you have more than enough. So if you have enough for yourself and also a bit extra for someone else. And I like the psalm that says, "My cup runs over." So if you don't have for yourself, then you can't give something that you don't have to anyone else. So for me, I actually thought about it. If you just have enough and you finish what you have, then you get straight back to scarcity. So that's why it's important to always have more than enough, to always have reserve, extra in reserve, so that you have enough for yourself, for your own needs, and also enough for someone else. Yeah, and also in terms of when you look at your Creator, He gave us hands and brains, hands to work with and the brains to have the right mindset to acquire what's around us that we can use, that we can use for our own benefit and also for other people's benefit. So I would agree with Trevor, there's a lot out there. You just need to have the right mindset and make use of what you have in your hands. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Donovan. Nazipa, good morning to you. Let's hear your thoughts on abundance.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we've got you, Nazipa.
Okay, great. I'm glad we have this topic on today. I think when I saw yesterday, it was abundance today. When I saw on Lee's emails, I thought, wow, I'd love to hear the thoughts of this. One of the, because I try to get myself to live in abundance mentality, but you know, sometimes you forget, like, you know, sometimes you look at the bank account and you're thinking, like then your whole abundance mentality kind of escapes you. One of the, somebody once said, I can't remember where I read this, but it was talking about how the quote says, when the recession is over in your mind and you start to operate from a point of abundance, you will do your best to restore prosperity to us all. I picked this up a while ago, and it's always set in my mind because I've always tried to understand what this is, to decode this. But you know, this then for me tells me that abundance is the opposite of recession, and that it really is a mental game, that it's in your mind. If you set your mind up to be on abundance mode, then you are able to do and see all things. And you know, sometimes I also think we tend to be very fixated on the concept of ownership, which is why we end up not seeing abundance. Because if we were to look at things in terms of access more than ownership, if you look at what you have access to instead of what it is that you own to yourself, there's a lot of abundance that you then get to see out there. Like, I mean, if I see now what I have access to, what are the things I can access, what can I use, and there's so much more that's out there that I have access to. But if I then look at it in terms of ownership, then I limit the abundance that flows to me. That's my thoughts. But I'm enjoying this discussion, and I want to channel my mind from today to wake up and do affirmations of abundance. Thank you. Thanks.
That's great, Nazipo. And I think from your story a few days back, I think you're already in that flow. Your story was an absolute amazing one of the way your mind works. So all the more power to you in your way forward. Mpulelo, let's come to you.
All right. I thought I was going to ease into this one nicely, but I got in this morning and the topic is serious and
That's what happens when
mind fasting already. Yeah, look, I wouldn't have gathered my thoughts because obviously I'm only joining in this morning, but as you're talking, I'm probably going to speak about three things. Yesterday, I read an article and it spoke about how people are hungry in South Africa, but there's an abundance. And that for me was fascinating, to say they're hungry people, yet as a country, we actually have enough food for the whole nation. So that for me was quite something to say, you know, probably abundance, as we're speaking this morning, there's abundance of things are there, but there's abundance in terms of how the mind thinks about situations, whether the actual abundance is there or is absent. And I guess that's what we mean when we say the mindset of abundance. So that's the first one. I didn't complete my thoughts on that one, but I read an article along those lines yesterday. But in terms of the mindset, I have to say and agree with Trevor that, you know, for me, during this time of the lockdown, you know, not making any income of any kind, but it has been probably one of the most wonderful times. I was telling my brother and my sister yesterday, and they were like, but what do you mean? I'm like, you know, the amount of ideas, the amount of people I've met, the amount of things I'm on now that I wasn't doing when there wasn't lockdown, the amount of thinking and building and putting things in place because now I have the time, which I didn't have before, the amount of time I have with family and how we can sit in the evenings and read scripture for an entire hour and come out thinking and feeling better. So it is true that the mindset of abundance says, even when there isn't literal or a realization of abundance around me, but in my mind, I see possibilities, I see what can happen, I see what. So that for me has been a personal experience, especially with this group. And I agree with you, Lee. It's come to a point where I'm a little bit overwhelmed now about how much one has to do. And I guess that's a lesson I'm taking from having been part of Wisdom Chats as well, and everything else that has flown from there. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Mpolelo. Cecile, let's come across to you.
Okay. Trevor, you said it so beautifully. I agree with you 100%. And I'm just thinking, maybe you should write to Cyril and tell him why don't they plant all these trees and fruit, veggie gardens, because I have an abundance mindset as well. I didn't think so, but when you were spelling it out, I realized I do, because I always see the positive in things. I try and I virtually use ostrich tactics when there are negative things, and I kind of push them out of my mind and I don't think of them, and just focus on the positive things. When I was a kid, we had fruit trees in our back garden and veggie garden. I was an adult before I bought fruit for the first time. I didn't think one bought fruit in a shop. And I think a lot of us this age probably went through the same thing. Fruit in a shop? You just walk to the back garden and you pick the oranges, you pick the peaches and plums and grapes and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so I think abundance mindset is, I always thought it's a positive or negative mindset, but the abundance is a really good word. Thanks, I'm enjoying this. Yeah, oh, fantastic, a tree house in the everything. Oh, great, oh, lekker. So yes, guys, I think most people in this group probably have a very good abundance mindset.
Great, thanks, Cecile. Guy, let's get across to you.
Hey, Silver Fox today. How the hell are we? This is the best word in the universe, Lee. Like a lot of us, we go through patches where we don't think we've got some abundance. That's just most of us, unless we are the new AI robots. We go through, and we've got to make sure we don't have too much of a dip. So that's in my experience coaching people over the past 22 years, that we go through these ebbs and flows, and it's about evening it out. Like some of you, I have all this sort of material around my office. I actually like this stuff, you know. It keeps my brain engaged on mornings like this. But here's a quote by Richard Colson. Abundance consciousness is so much more than simply the ability to make money. It is a mindset that involves seeing life not as a struggle, but as a magical adventure where our needs are met with grace and ease. It includes the ability to see beauty wherever you go, to give gratitude as your primary emotion, and to open your heart to all who you meet. You know, the bottom line is everyone talks about your subconscious mind, and very few of us actually train our subconscious mind. And that's the bottom line. And that's why there's people think they don't have abundance, but they actually do. But they think their abundance should be something else, something higher. And it's because they haven't conditioned inside here. But we all have some sort of abundance. Just being alive is abundance. And as Mpumi said, what great opportunities the past 8 weeks. It's been a fascinating journey. Unbelievable. So thank you very much for abundance, Lee.
Great, thanks, Guy. Solomon, morning to you. Let's get across to you. Solomon, are you with us?
Good morning. When I think of abundance, I think of the principle of sowing and reaping. I believe that for us to see abundance happening in our lives, we need to constantly just sow, continue to sow. If you and I don't have friends, that means we were not sowing friendships, and we are not friendly. If we don't receive lots of love from others, it actually means that we have not sown the love. So I think I wanted to just reinforce this by telling you just a short story of how my wife and I were taking care of students at UCT in Cape Town and all that. And we had lots and lots of these students coming in our house. Some of them learned how to drive and all that through our cars and stuff like that. But at the end of every month, we actually just found that we still have more food in the house, and you've got so many people coming in and out. So I believe that abundance has got to do with us just sowing all the time in the things that we really believe that they are important to us. And we find ourselves being able to be creative all the time when we find ourselves going through issues. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Solomon. Jasper, let's get across to you.
On a day like today, I wanted you to have me first because I have a whole sermon prepared on this topic.
An abundance of words, yeah. No.
Abundance of words. So I was thinking of some incidents where it played out, and I remember way back when I first took the New Life opportunity to Uganda, and it was just after the time of Idi Amin, and the country was shot apart, and wherever you drove, there was bullet holes in the walls and stuff like that. And I remember on my trip from the airport with friends who stayed there and who were very familiar with the situation into Kampala, I thought by myself, and you drive past shacks upon shacks upon shacks on the main road. And I thought to myself, I'm coming from South Africa with a fairly well-developed infrastructure and a higher middle class. And at the time, a well-to-do middle-class person in Uganda would earn about 300 Rand a month, when the going rate was, let's say, 6,000 Rand a month in South Africa. And I thought to myself, how will this business survive here? Because it will be the cost in South Africa plus the export and the import duties and stuff. But by the end of that week, as I raised this question to the friends who brought me there, and the business was starting to take off, he said to me, your job is just to make the opportunity available. The people will find it. And it was amazing how fast the opportunity took off in those very dire circumstances. So the point was not to be blinded about what your physical eyes can see. And that leads me to my sermon for the day, because there's a piece in the Bible that says, I came that you might have life and have it more abundantly. And in my quiet time a while ago, I struggled with that verse, and I took it before the Lord, and I say, why do you put this in the Bible when it's not true? That kind of thing. And then, like Donovan started to unpack the definition of abundance. He said, all right, what do you mean by this? I said, I don't have this abundance in my life. And he says, all right, what do you mean by abundance? What's your definition of abundance? And I was led to say more than enough. He said, all right, let's start there. And now to more or less summarize our conversation that took a while, he basically says, food, have you got more than enough food for today? I said, yeah, I just had a breakfast and there's food in the fridge and all over the house. And yeah, I've got more than enough food. And I say, clothing? I said, yeah, the clothes that I wear and my cupboard is full of clothes. Now, you know, I went through the whole thing of clothing and cars and beds but then I could see where this discussion was going. So I said, but that's not what I mean. I have enough for today, but I worry about the future. And that's where the crux of the matter was. We were never told to worry about the future, because every next day will have enough of its own. But for today, will you have enough for today? And then he said, how would you feel just for today? If you think of the abundance for today, are you happy for today? And what would be that thinking of happiness and gratitude and thinking abundance for today? Now, if I can take that feeling into tomorrow and the next week, a day, and the next day, after a week, I would have a week of abundance. If I could carry it on, I would have a month of abundance. But the problem is we try and solve imaginary problems of the future with solutions that we don't have access to, because it'll only find us in the future. And then we make ourselves so unhappy about today that we forget that feeling of abundance. So I was challenged to learn to live abundance day by day. And then I think it's very much in line with also the philosophy that we have in the chamber, is that there are enough around us, even in the current dire so-called economic setup, if we can just learn to unlock resources. But you can only unlock resources that are not currently used if you work with the right people and the right mindset. So this is now the time to take up a collection and sing a closing hymn, but my sermon is over.
Bye, dankie Dominee. Sally, let's come across to you.
Morning, guys. So wow, this is absolutely just up my alley. As all of you know by now, I'm busy doing the Mind Power course with Robin Banks, and in the course we learn about the laws of nature and the laws of the mind. And one of the things that he talks about is affirmations. He focuses very greatly on affirmations, and one of the affirmations that I'm learning is that I am always in the right place at the right time. And I think this is it. You know, I didn't know what I was signing up for, you know, starting with all this, so just, it's like Mpumelelo said, I just sort of get involved in all these different things. And now I'm actually starting to see that I actually am right where I'm supposed to be. And it's just amazing. So I just want to read something to you. Okay, the law of attraction. The law of attraction is the most positive law in the universe, just like gravity. It is always in effect, always in motion. The law of attraction allows for infinite possibilities, infinite abundance, and infinite joy. It knows no order of difficulty, and it can change your life in every way. So it's definitely a mindset. I am very much like Cecile when I use the ostrich effect to sort of, I don't want those energy suckers. So before, just a quick, also just a last thought from my side is I am staying with my mom at the moment, and we grew up in very different eras. She's very, would you say, frugal with money? She's got a scarcity mindset, and now I'm trying to, you know, because as much as I love her, she tends to sort of make me negative. So as much as I'm learning on this journey, I'm trying to teach her. And then she'll say to me, Sal, but I'm getting old. You know, she's terminally ill, so she's only got a few years left, maybe about 5 years. And I said to her, Mom, you have to stop pulling yourself down, forget what happened in the past. You have to take your life as it is now, improve the quality of the rest of the 5 or 10 years you have left. And that for me at the moment is a challenge, but I'm actually loving it. So yeah, I'm loving this discussion. I'm just loving everything. Okay guys, bye.
Thanks, Sally. Sorry, I've got my leaf blower going again. So Lee, just over to you to wrap up, and I think we're done for this morning.
It's not easy for the brain to work. So you all have seen that I'm in a new office. My celebration today is that my helper has come, and so rather than my house getting like a lick and a split and a little bit of a space so that things look more or less clean, they might get a proper clean today. But what that means is that I can't be where my Ellies are. I'm in a back office, and as you can see, it's freezing. It gets not 1 ounce of sun in it. So, and I think that's frozen my brain. But I know we're just at the top of the hour, but I do want to just share this slide with you. Because this is the slide that it depicts this terraced environment where people have taken, I mean, you think about the pioneers that arrived in this place, and you've got these steep hills and this lovely little stream, and they decide, oh, this is a good place to settle. Let's grow stuff here. And what I want to take from this and to take into tomorrow is we're talking about a mindset, but what are we doing? So I want to take it from concept to practicality. What are we actually doing that is putting our abundance mindset into action? So I asked the question around how is abundance related to initiative? And I think about Trevor's idea of planting trees, and Jasper's concept of using the concept of unlocking resources. So I guess I'm asking you to think about your stories and your experience and your plans going forward that say, if I'm thinking from a place of abundance, what am I doing about it? How am I actioning it? So that's my thought for tomorrow. And so hopefully we can discuss that. And sorry, I want to just unshare, stop the share. And yeah, I look forward to chatting it all with you through tomorrow. Bye, everyone.